Here at Use Your Words Podcast, none of us are knowingly foolish. Okay, Troll.
Yeah, we have thousands of years of architecture we can go over.
Would you build your house on rock or sand?
Knowing Brewer, sand because it's cheaper.
Of course, sand.
I found that perfectly appropriate considering Earth Day. He would build it on the most natural of places, sand on the beach, down by the river or the ocean. Welcome to another episode of Use Your Words Podcast. As you can tell, this is Paul talking. Aaron was the one laughing in the background, and Josh right now is off saying hi to his wife who is vacuuming, apparently. So he will join us a little bit later, but we're breaking this up a little bit because Aaron has to get going off to guitar lesson. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, it is.
And you get to learn some more guitaring, right? You get to be a more guitaristy guitarist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully, maybe. I don't know.
So that's so we're gonna. You might hear a little disconnect in this, and that's because of the fact that we got Aaron for part of it, and then Josh for the other part. So. You be the judge on which half is better, and let us know.
It'll be Josh's half.
That might determine some things. But anyways, so after Easter, we have this wonderful worldwide holiday coming up. What is that worldwide holiday, Mr. Johnson?
After Easter?
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
What's the next biggest worldwide holiday?
I'm gonna assume Earth Day. No,
it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It is Earth Day.
I was about to say Cinco de Mayo.
Earth Day comes before Cinco de Mayo, and Cinco de Mayo, I doubt is probably not celebrated in I don't know, China, North Korea, South Korea. Yeah. Not a lot of Mexican footprint in those areas.
Fair.
So we have here in North America and elsewhere, worldwide, we have Earth Day, which, of course, last month was superseded by Earth Hour. So, which I'm like, okay, so we give them an hour. Now we're going to give them a day. And now we're going to do week and then month and then year. And then, actually, I guess you could say Corona has kind of become the Earth virus.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, and I don't say that facetiously. I say that because you see all these people, I guess you could say they're looking for the silver lining about Corona. And for example, the coronavirus pandemic has led to a huge drop in air pollution in China.
Which is good.
So, right. And so they're seeing the same result over in Europe and everywhere else where the pandemic is, kind of widespread. So, New Yorkers, you might for once be able to see a nice clear blue sky. Look at the positives of this.
Right.
Is what they're saying. So you have, then what?
I thought it was from like Italy, like the little, I guess, what channel or whatever for the boats and stuff is actually like clean, where you can see through it.
Oh yeah, it's not so much that it's clean. It's just there's no sediment, stirred up, so you can actually see. It's clear, because you don't have any gondolas and that going down over everywhere, and you can see things. And so they got that, and that was probably one of the first articles I saw was like, look, the clear water in the canals of Italy. I'm like, okay, really? There's just no sediment being kicked up.
Yeah.
Now that being said, we do have the large amounts of pollution being pulled out of the air. And even the BBC, they have an article saying that air pollution and CO2, both of those have fallen drastically as this virus spread. So I'm almost sitting back and like, I'm waiting till someone starts praising the virus for saving the world. I'm waiting for Greta Thunberg to come out and say, this is the savior of humanity. I'm waiting for her to do that because
I hope not.
I don't know. She said she had corona, so I haven't followed up with her after she said she had corona. So, yeah. And she said because she had corona, this proved her statements about climate change right. And I'm just like, You know what?
What?
Go be. Yeah.
What?
Makes absolutely no sense.
Oh,
Oh,
didn't raise
Josh
the
is
hand or
back.
anything.
nope. So yeah, so we got Earth Day coming up here. So Johnson, I almost said Johnson. Johnson,
Joshinson.
what are you doing to celebrate Earth Day? Anything at all?
I don't think I've ever done anything in the history of ever for Earth Day.
I thought you said you went to a Brewers game once to learn about Earth Day.
Say that was, I think, one thing when our class went to a Brewers game and they had some demonstration thing on Earth Day and some little field trip, and I honestly don't really remember anything from it because I was more than likely having fun goofing around with friends around Miller Park than paying attention to an Earth Day lesson.
Go figure. You and school equals not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which now I probably would pay attention more, but back then,
Josh, do you ever do anything to celebrate Earth Day?
Let's see. Well, I like to take all the bad oil and bad coolant I have and pour it in the yard and pour it down the drain.
Wow.
Then I take all the rusty car parts and I like to throw them into the lake. You know, it gives the fish something to build their life on.
So you're Captain Pollution. Got it.
He's killing us.
No, I've never really done anything special for Earth Day.
Okay. By the way, did you get the reference? So I said Captain Pollution. Do you know where that's from?
Nope.
No.
Have you ever seen Captain Planet and the Planeteers as a young kid? Either of you?
That's
Nope.
I'm sure I've seen that, but I don't.
No, you haven't, Aaron.
Yes.
Okay.
I've had.
So Captain Planet and the Planeteers was a TV show, very obviously, as you can guess. So I guess you guys wouldn't have seen it because that came out like in 1990.
I have seen that.
Oh, you have seen it. Yeah. So
Yes.
it's like they have little rings and they go, when our powers combine, Captain Planet.
Yep.
So anyways, Captain Pollution was made as the anti-Captain Planet, so they had the 5 or whatever rings of pollution. And when their powers combined, they created Captain Pollution. That's what I said. Josh is the Captain Pollution. When our powers combined of oil, CO2, and whatever,
Yes.
whatever else it is.
He's the one throwing car batteries in the lake.
Oh, we already know that's his favorite pastime.
Duh. And then watching as the water and the acid combine and watching the fish pop up around wherever I threw the battery. It's very entertaining.
You're awful.
So, question for both of you. And you know, I'm trying to keep more for Aaron since he has to leave in a little bit for guitar lessons. But did either of you ever do Earth Keepers when you were in elementary school? Because I know you both went to the Racine area school district. I didn't know if either of you did Earth Keepers.
I
What's that?
do not remember that at all.
Okay, so no, neither of you did it. Okay. So think of it as this way, Aaron. You know how you went to Miller Park for an Earth Day lesson and you kind of like spaced out and blah, 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 right?
Mhm.
So when I was in elementary school here in Racine, we did over the course of the entire spring semester. We're talking multiple weeks where we did this. We would go on a Friday on a bus to, oh, dang it. What's the name of that? Root River Conservatory place.
The Root River Pathway? No.
It's a nature center, essentially. With a bunch of trails and all that, right? And so they had this, they had this thing called Earth Keepers. And you had this mysterious benefactor named EM, who gave you a video lesson every week. And it was this voiceless body that we had to go to the Root River place to listen to the video. And then we had our little activity books where we had to do things like Go into the field, sit under a tree, and meditate about how nature is important to you. And then journal for a little bit on everything.
I think I did that. Riverbend Nature Center.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I think I did that actually. And then did you go around and did they give you like an egg carton? And you had to pick and put stuff in the egg carton or something?
Yeah, you had to do that, fill out your little book, and then like you got through so far in the activity book and you got a different key. Remember that?
I don't remember that part.
Okay, yeah. So you got like a different key after you get so far, and every key can unlock a different chest. And every chest led further and further to reveal the identity of who EM is.
What the heck?
Yeah, and so you have to do all these things, like again, like sit under a tree and meditate and go on a little nature walk. And we would spend whole school days doing this.
That sounds awful.
Jeez.
And then you get like, I'm not talking like one school day, I'm talking like weeks. We've done this. But anyways, you get to the end, and if you were one of the lucky ones, and I had to be one of the lucky ones apparently because my mom was like, "You will do this." Yay! You get the final key, and you open the final chest, and you find out who EM is, and it's a mirror because EM reverses me.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that sounds awful.
I think the reason why I don't remember this as well as Paul is because when we did this, I don't think I was fully engaged. I think I thought part of it was cool, but I think the other part was I was finding a little weird. But then again, I almost feel like we had to rush back to the bus too, so my memory is very vague.
The only reason I remember is because it was so corny. It was just so corny, and that was during my 4th grade year. I remember that. It was just, but so many days were spent at Riverbend Nature Center, walking around the trees, meditating with the trees, thanking the trees, and yeah.
Thanks for giving me oxygen and stuff.
They were trying to turn you into a environmentalist.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And the whole booklet was like, EM always does this, blah, blah, blah. And then you fill in whatever. And again, you get to the end. It's me. Oh,
yay. How rewarding. Oh.
Yeah. I definitely did not turn into a mini Greta after that.
Thank you.
On Earth Day, I go outside and bury a plastic bag. I'm kidding. No, I don't.
Take that.
I do believe saving natural resources is important. We're called as Christians to be stewards of the earth and what's around us. So I don't believe in willy-nilly, cutting down a tree just to cut down a tree. Unless it's to put the tree in Josh's yard, then yes, go ahead and do it.
I want guitars and drums.
Well, like I said not willy-nilly just cutting down a tree to cut down a tree. If it's going to be used for something like guitars, drums, drumsticks, etc., go for it. But at the same time, we should be responsible and maybe replant some trees.
Yeah, I work with a guy, and he's been very fortunate. So he bought a bunch of land west of Madison when he was younger, and him and 3 other guys, they each bought 40 acres. And over the course of the years, the guys have passed away. So he now is sitting on 160 acres that, 75% of he inherited in a sense.
Right.
And what he's been doing is he hires somebody to go through and chops down the trees, but they do it in a way to where one spawns back up. So they pretty much reforest the area every 5 to 10 years, depending on what trees they take. But they do it in a way where it's like an apple orchard. Everything is in a spot, so
right.
he's making money as well as he's making sure that there's stuff for the animals and stuff in the area too.
Yeah, and that's that whole idea of being a steward of the resources that we're given. I like things that are made of real wood. I like things that I like petroleum products. Yeah, okay, yes, that's non-renewable. I get it. That's fine. Don't argue with it. But I enjoy those things. But I believe also at the same time it's be responsible. Now, I'm not one of those environmentalists because you have the crazies who say you should never chop down a tree. Never chop down a tree. Well, you got that, right? Well, then you don't do what you're supposed to do. And then you got stuff like California, you got stuff like Australia, where you got these wildfires that just burn off control because they're not allowed to be contained normally. Because normally, you're going to have a fire here or there to kind of burn away some stuff. Right. You're going to have, trees die and fall or be taken away. We can't just let everything just grow and grow and grow. Otherwise, we're going to have California over and over and over again.
Worldwide.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, I get it. I want to be cognizant. I want to be responsible with the resources I have been given. But at the same time, I don't want to be afraid to use them. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of what we're seeing with Earth Day now. And what I find, I don't know, funny, whatever you want to call it. So, what's the big environmental trend right now? What does everyone want to ban?
What does everybody want to ban right now?
Yeah, all the environmentalists, they want to ban what?
I'm thinking
plastic.
Well,
you remember how much they have to give up and how much they have to take then?
Sorry, what was that, Josh?
I said, do they realize how much they have to give up and then how much they're going to have to take?
Well, here's why I bring this up. Okay. So everyone's like, ban plastic, get rid of the plastic bags, use your reusable shopping bags. Well, you know what came out recently? A study came out. Coronavirus can be spread by baggers bagging groceries in reusable plastic bags. Not because the bagger necessarily has coronavirus, but because the reusable shopping bag comes from a house that maybe has someone who was exposed to coronavirus. It is now at my grocery store. They now say, if you bring in a reusable shopping bag, you have to bag everything. Our employees will not touch it because of the spread of corona. So all of a sudden, this thing that you were like, we must get rid of, is now all of a sudden safer than the thing you want to replace it with. And I'm just sitting there like, what? You're kidding, right? But that's how it goes. And so it makes me a little, I guess, crazy at the same time. It's like, really, people? You're going to do that to us? You're just going to go? So.
My head hurts.
Oh, your head hurts.
I need some Tylenol now. Yeah.
That comes in a plastic bottle, sir. How dare you?
Think about all our cars.
Well, that is true. Most cars are now mostly plastic nowadays instead of metal and all that other stuff.
So it's like, what the heck? Okay. All of the things you'd have to change to get rid of plastic. Like everything, a ton of stuff on my desk right now is plastic.
Mm-hmm. As I say, a lot of the stuff on my desk is plastic. Yeah. But I mean, we got all this fun stuff, and at least what I keep hearing is Earth Day, Earth Day, Earth Day. Remember the Earth and all you do. Yay! What?
Yeah. No, I'm just people like that.
So Earth Day, in case you're unaware, which I'm sure you are, Mr. Johnson, is April 22nd. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's articles out there that, like, for example, this one, 8 ways to make every day Earth Day.
Wow.
Do you know how you can make every day Earth Day, Johnson?
I don't.
Do you want to
recycle?
So pick one.
Pick one.
Yeah, like take a guess on one of the things that they say you can do to make every day an Earth Day.
Recycle.
Let's see here. Yes, recycle, obviously.
Yeah.
Good one. Did you know they call this one the hazards of outer beauty?
What?
Each year, people put on 5 pounds of personal care products that are absorbed by your skin. That's how they make it through there.
Oh.
So they say if you use makeup, you should use makeup that use organic ingredients and recycled packaging. Because if you don't, you're killing the earth.
We're destroying. I don't use makeup. Quiet,
mascara.
Josh. Okay, you know what? Hey, that's only a couple times. Not 5 pounds worth.
I don't know. That one day your face was black. You may have used a lot.
I hate you. Shut up. Man.
Okay.
So makeup.
Obviously, never drive in the car alone.
I was gonna say, driving. Like ride a bike.
Never drive alone. Never drive alone.
So carpool as much as you can.
Carpool if you must. Carpool if you must, but take a bus instead.
Or I'll just ride a bicycle. There, that's better.
They say bike or walk to your office. Yep.
To my office? I don't have an office.
Yeah. Well, your office being where you work.
Yeah, I know.
And then it says compost. You must compost, Aaron.
I must but if I don't
compost, then you're a horrible person who's killed the earth.
And he already was.
Man.
Also, you know what they want you to do, Aaron?
What?
You must get rid of your energy vampires.
Hold on. What?
Buy Xbox. Buy big.
What's an energy vampire?
I've never heard that term before, but I mean, yeah,
that's
what Josh was just saying. Xbox and
yeah. So essentially, what they want you to do is anything that you have that's electronic. If you're not using it, unplug it.
But
so when you're not using your TV, unplug your TV. When you're not using your Xbox, unplug your Xbox. When you're not using a cell phone charger, unplug the cell phone charger.
But then I have to plug it back in. That's work.
Yep, because they want to save 10% in energy savings.
Now, technically, if it has a switch, an actual physical switch, it doesn't draw any electricity. But if it doesn't, so a computer that's plugged in, still drawing a very small amount. Your charger, it's still drawing some. So if it's a light, you're fine.
Hence the vampire thing. Okay, that being said, Aaron, I'm going to stop the recording now so that you can jump off and get your guitar lesson. So that way it doesn't kill your mic. And then, Josh, we're going to let this upload, and then me and you will continue after it uploads here. So be a second. Okay, so Aaron had to go run off to his wonderful guitar lesson to learn how to be a better guitarist, apparently. So I still got Josh here on the lineup, I believe. Yes, Josh, you there still? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I guess now, since Aaron's gone, you get to have more of a front row center stage on this. Congratulations.
Oh, boy.
So
it shouldn't be too hard to make him second place here.
Well, let's see here. Let's see what you got here. So remember, Earth Day is what we're talking about. Well, you can talk about Earth Day, Earth Hour, environmentalism, Greta Thunberg, all that fun stuff. So you can do whatever you need to do there. So that being said, I have seen a lot of people who have, and I think quite crazily, been happy to see the coronavirus out in the world because they're saying it's doing something that they thought would never happen before. And they don't care how this happens, but by any means necessary, they're happy to see CO2 levels lowering and pollution lowering because corona is making people stay home or killing people. Either one of those two they don't care how it gets done. They're just happy that, CO2 is going down. So I think that's a little extreme, to be honest, because, in a way, if you really sit back and look at what they've been demanding, it really takes something like a corona level quarantine to get to the levels and the things they've been wanting all along, in all honesty.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I thought was interesting, I'm trying to find it here. It was a picture of China. It was an infrared shot from a satellite over China, and it showed that over the course of a few weeks, you could see the heat levels just start to dwindle, and it was like a giant cloud that was just shrinking over China.
Yep.
I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, even see, one thing I have an issue with climate change is, it's global cooling, it's global heating. Now it's just change in general.
Right.
Besides the CO2 thing in the atmosphere affecting with the sun and stuff, this planet was never meant for humans to take it over. Period. With all the waste and all the different stuff that we're doing, I mean, there's probably more than just CO2, but CO2 is the main thing that we're measuring right now that's showing us the whole climate change. But
nitrogen dioxide too. Okay. NO2.
So, I mean, in retrospect, it's crazy. And I was disappointed to see, because there was somebody was saying something about how the canals in Venice, the Italy's floating city.
Yep. Aaron was talking about that too before he joined up with us, but yeah.
And I saw there were a bunch of articles and stuff that were stating that, it's fake. It's not true. I will say what people are probably starting to see is those canals are used to having boats go up and down with people, stabbing the ground with the big long poles, So if anything, they're watching the water and the debris on the bottom not become touched. So at that point, they're able to see, because there's no debris moving around, they're able to see straight down. So I think for some people, they're just like, wow, look what this can look like if we don't touch it. And that's where I'm saying too, it's like, as humans, we have our hands in everything. We try to control everything. And in doing so, we mess a lot of stuff up along the way. Now, can the oceans and stuff get cleaned up if we stopped taking motorized boats out there? Absolutely. What was it? My teacher from middle school, Mr. Page, he was in the dragon boat races.
Okay.
And he was training, and they were training in the harbor, Racine's Harbor. And the person in front of him accidentally took the paddle and did more of a scooping motion. And he got a mouthful of water, but he says it felt like he had a mouthful of oil. He said it wasn't water that went into his mouth. And that's just from boats sitting there and taking off. So these boats are constantly leaking and stuff. So if you pulled all the boats out of the water over the course of years, could it become clean again? Yeah. Could we see at the bottom? Maybe not. But we could see some color. We could see maybe some plant life and fish life easier in a few years. So, I mean, it's crazy how much humans have impacted the planet in a negative way. It really is. And when you look at stats that show that we've been doing nothing but a CO2 skyrocket increase from the 1950s to today, back then, I mean, you had industry, but not like you do today. So it was more up and down. And then out of nowhere, we're just on a steady climb upwards with our CO2. But I do like seeing how there are some companies that are trying to do zero emission facilities. And I think there's one down in Texas, and they're using the CO2 gases and they're sending them through again to be reburned, kind of like how your EGR system works in a car. And so they're sending it back through, but they're also using that heat and that flow of I'm not going to say air. I'm just going to say that motion of the CO2 to also help turn turbines, and they try to completely burn it off. And that's for those of you.
Sorry, someone.
I was dancing. You could have kept that going. And for those of you who don't know, how a catalytic converter on your car works is your exhaust gases come out of the motor at one heat. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but the cat takes that heat and it pretty much chokes it down. So it does it in a way to where the catalytic converter is actually hotter than your exhaust gases when it comes out. So it's helping to burn off a lot of the excess CO2 fumes. In doing so, that's also why you'll have water trails coming out of your exhaust pipe as well. So the water trail isn't just a temperature difference. It's also a result of taking these CO2 gases and burning them to such extreme temperatures. So that's what this factory tries to do too. And it's just interesting. We can keep advancing and at the same time do better with our CO2 gases. It's just going to take us a while and a lot of money. And then the question becomes, is it even worth it at that point? By the time we get there, we've either destroyed the earth or we've completely made every country in the world broke. Sorry, I went on a long tangent.
No, that's all right. So I pulled open just because I was interested. I looked at that that plant you were talking about. It's a 50 milliwatt plant. It's a prototype that they have down in Texas. They haven't figured out if it can actually work large scale yet or not. But it's something. Yes, I agree. Like I said, I believe in being working and being conscious about the resources we use. If there's a way we can do things, to be able to produce energy in that, fine. People, there's this weird thing online. It's like either you're for renewable energy, like wind, solar, and that, or you're against it. People online, for whatever reason, don't believe you can be a whole thing of, yes, let's start investing in these things as we can do. Like, for example, where it's using essentially zero emissions for a natural gas plant, or let's look at making solar better or wind better. But until we get there, we do need to supplement it with what we use currently, because we can't just turn off all of our fossil fuel generators and expect people to be okay. What would happen if we turned off all the coal plants in the U.S. right now? There'd be a shortage of electricity. There'd be chaos.
Mm-hmm. Now, We Energy was shutting down the one in here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I think they were disassembling it. I don't exactly remember what he was telling me, but yeah. So I mean, even big companies, they're doing it one by one. Part of it is prior is it's cutting costs, it's cutting and saving money in places you can,
right?
Because nuclear reactors are producing a lot more power than what coal plants can do, and they can do it cleaner too.
Yeah, and then you got the environmentalists who hate nuclear, which they don't like nuclear for whatever reason, probably because of radioactive waste, which they say, oh, we don't know what to do with it, but we've learned what to do with it, and we know what it does and how to contain it and that. But
I mean,
it creates the waste that they don't like.
Yeah, that it does. But like I said, this planet was never intended for humans to populate it as much as possible and to be as advanced as we are. And you and I know this because in the Bible, it calls us aliens. We are not of this world. This is a stepping stone to where we will finally be. And so, unfortunately, because of sin, this stepping stone is going to decay. I mean, that's just the nature of it.
Right.
But as people, we can help it slow down. We can help the earth prolong as long as possible.
Right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I agree with you. I'm all for it. I'd love to see us find ways to create energy and and save on CO2. I'd like us to find new ways to use plastic. I'd like us to, keep it advancing. But at the same time, I'd like to harm the earth less and less and less. I'm more of someone who leans along the line of where the quality is instead of the quantity. If you're building a product, but it's killing so much, okay, you're helping the company stay alive by making some bucks, but I mean, at that point, is it even worth it? That's how I would see it. And business is a whole nother monster on its own. I understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd like to see us do more. And I do know that the one energy that is the hardest to harness efficiently is heat.
Yeah, and those are all things that we're going to have to take, and let's be honest here. As far as science, that we keep advancing in science every day, every year, every month, and whatnot. And hey, maybe we need to dedicate some more science once Corona is over with. I figure right now, probably everyone focus on Corona, but once this is, this whole catastrophe is over, spend some more time and money and research on it, because companies are only going to look at what is profitable for them. Well, if they can be the ones to come out with a new way to do the whatever type of power, electricity, that's going to be profitable for them. That 50 milliwatt plant you're talking about down in Texas, that essentially is a way for them to prove to investors that what they're doing is viable. And once they get enough people, like, hey, this will work, they'll invest, they'll build it. That thing will succeed. And that's a good example of that. I'm just, and like I said, I have that hard time, reconciling, because you seem to have the two extremes, and hardly anyone ever really, well, let me rephrase that. Everyone sits in the middle, I feel like, except for the people who are on the extremes who just keep yelling. And all they do is yell. And you have the one side, shut everything but wind and solar down. And then you have the other side that says, use as much oil, gas, and all that. Because we do have to reconcile the fact that, coal in certain areas, that is essentially the lifeblood of those towns. What do you do to help those people then be able to sustain their lives for their families in that? If you say you shut down coal, all of a sudden, where do all those people go for work? Especially if whole towns are built around this. Fracking, same thing. You have whole towns built around it. What do you do for those people to say, here's how we're going to help you transition? If we did it just as an overnight thing, that would be shocking. Right now we're seeing, because of Corona, massive unemployment. If we did that to energy sector workers as well, because we said, you know what, we're just going to go solar and wind, we would see not as a great an extent we're seeing now, but we would still see a record number of people being unemployed essentially overnight, because they're being told, yeah, your thing can't be used anymore. So we kind of have to have that transition phase. And what that looks like, I don't know. And so I keep saying, come back to that middle part. We need to have some sort of transitions. Yes, I care about the earth. Yes, I care about the planet, but I am not an eco-terrorist to the point of where I'm saying, shut it all down and start over, because I also realize at the same time, and here's what makes me laugh, like Greta and all these other environmentalists who are calling on, like, oh, we're killing the earth and that. And they're using every piece of technology. They're using high-end cameras. How do you think those were made? Technology, cameras, computers, and that. Guess what? They're using rare earths from China. That's one of the biggest producers of it. I'm going to guarantee you there is a lot of pollution to be able to extract those things, for them to be able to go on Instagram and whine about how plastic bag they see on the sidewalk is harming the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So what I find ironic also, so Earth Hour, are you aware of that?
Mm-mm.
So Earth Hour, that's an hour in March when, to save the earth, you turn off your lights for an hour. To raise awareness about needing to save the earth. Okay. And it's an hour before, it's an hour in March. So it's before Earth Day. So all these things. Okay. So this past year. They're like, oh, turn off your lights to support and bring things to the earth. So it was started by WWF. You familiar with them?
Nope.
It was like the World Wildlife Foundation. They have the little panda as their symbol.
Mm-mm.
You've never seen that, huh?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, World Wildlife Fund. Sorry, not foundation, fund. So they do stuff like if you search for them, they're like adopt an animal, help support an animal and all that.
I may have.
Yeah, they deal a lot with endangered species and that. So they have a best interest in protecting the earth.
Yeah.
Fine, that's beautiful. Okay, so anyways, they're like, for this 1 hour, turn off your lights, as your symbolic gesture of helping to save the earth, because that reduces electricity for that one time. Well, this past year, because of COVID, because of it was during this COVID whole thing, instead of turning off the lights for an hour, it was turn into this live stream for 3 hours to show your support for saving the earth. So it changed from not using any energy to using a ton, because to stream, it takes a lot, especially if you have multiple people streaming from multiple locations. That's all those people who have to turn on all their equipment, computers, laptops, like you've learned today, audio interfaces, microphones and all that, and providing power and everything to all that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, hey, that's what's going to happen. So I just found it funny that they're like, Earth Hour, switch off the lights, but watch our live stream for 3 hours. Because that live stream is using way more energy than that 1 hour of turning your lights off will save. Especially nowadays, most people, I don't know about you, have you replaced all your lights with LED bulbs?
I have not, but we're looking at doing that in the condo.
Do you, in your condo, are they the traditional incandescent, compact fluorescent?
So technically, this condo is young enough but old enough. So it's interesting. I kind of like it and I don't like it at the same time. All the bottom light switches, so all the outlets, I should say, the bottom outlet is live. The top outlet is all controlled by the light switch. So the only place where there are lights that are tied to a light switch are the bathrooms and the kitchen and the hallway and the master bath. Those all have lights that are hardwired to a light switch.
Okay.
Everywhere else in the house, it's all plug-in.
And those ones in your bathroom and all that, I'm assuming then they're incandescent?
It's hard to tell because they have, how LEDs have kind of like that bulky plastic end where it would be metal? It looks like LEDs. I haven't taken them out yet. I don't know if they're a special kind of LED or what, but they kind of warm up like a traditional incandescent would because it's got like that Hollywood style lighting to it. So I'm not sure.
Okay, so probably incandescent then. Either that or real good compact fluorescence or really expensive LEDs, but yeah, whatever. Okay, I was just wondering. And the reason I bring that up is, as they're, saying turn off your lights for an hour or whatever, the energy usage of an LED is so minimal compared to like an incandescent.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, LEDs last forever. Compact fluorescents last a good time, but when they're done, well, let's see, mercury. So
yep.
That's a bad thing for the environment right there. So all these people are like, go to compact fluorescence, and then, oh wait, these bulbs break, they leak mercury all over. Whoopsie.
Yep.
So that's what I was like. There's every little thing we do. It's like we take one step forward and we take 2 steps back somehow. Let's go with the reusable shopping bags. Well, now those can spread corona. Let's go with metal straws. Well, now we can stab our brains out. Let's, again, extreme examples. I know I'm not oblivious to that fact.
And then you could also have somebody go, all right, let's go back to the time of stone, wood, and fire. Well, now with the amount of people we have, we're chopping down all the forests because wood can't build a 50-story apartment building.
Right. And you do have those people that want that. You're actually seeing, and this is, I find this very wicked in this way. people who are celebrating the coronavirus because it's bringing the population of the world down, and they're happy for that. And I'm like, ugh.
And then those people who are all cheerful for it lose one or two family members.
Yeah, so they're not gonna. Yeah, and those people, I want to see how they react when that happens. When they lose those one or two family members, it sucks regardless of that.
Oh yeah,
whoever would lose a family member in that, because of the fact that, well, especially through Corona. Now, I have other things with Corona on how they're calculating death tolls and that, but that's neither here nor there right now. I just find it cruel on those people.
No, I do too.
Because, and the reason that came up was, have you ever heard of the Georgia Tombstone's Rules for Humanity?
No, but enlighten me.
Okay. So let me pull this up. So I am, so I'm quoting this right. So these are, I'm sorry, I said tombstones. They're guide stones. So they call them the American Stonehenge. And the reason they call them the American Stonehenge is because they don't know exactly really how they got there. You know, there's theories on how they got there.
Mm-hmm.
But on them, they have a set of 10 guidelines. Okay.
Whoa. I'm reading it right now.
Yeah. So guideline number 1, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature.
Wow.
Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. You know, and there's some other things that they go on. But like the last one, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature.
I like how they have, I don't know if yours says this, but mine has like this sub comment underneath it. And it's like, whoa, this is kind of dark here. When it says guide reproduction wisely, it says underneath, i.e., abort children. You have rule, passion, faith, tradition, all things with tempered reason. A new state religion. Worship Lucifer. It's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
How would you come up with the idea that we should only have 500 million people?
There are certain people who believe that that is the magic number for us to live properly in harmony with nature. So how they got to that number, who knows? You know, and again,
go ahead.
I say again, this whole thing, you know, these Georgia Guidestones are just a little creepy and a little weird. But what's sad is I'm starting to see, and the link I sent you, this was an article from 2019. So before this whole Corona was a thing, well, I'm starting to see people say, maybe the Guidestones are right. And that has me a little freaked out because people are like that. I'm like, oh, great, we're going to have the purge coming on just to save the environment. Oh, wait, the purge is called Corona.
Yeah, right. So I'm just hang on here. I'm going to quick do a calculation. So that's million. So 100,000 million billion. All right, divided by what's the current population status of the United States? Is that like 321 million?
327 million.
327. I can see where that 500 million kind of comes into play. Because if you were, you know, there's roughly 1.9 billion acres over the 48 states. And if we have 327 million people, if you gave everybody an equal share, everybody would have their own land that is equal to 5.81 acres.
Yeah,
now,
but this didn't say for America. This said for the world.
Oh, I know. So I'm just saying I can see, because you got to add 100 and oh my gosh, I can't do math. 173 million people to that total. So I can see where they get that idea. And if you want somebody living, you know, and not fighting. I can see that, but I don't know. It's like, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's just weird. And what I find interesting is no one really knows exactly where this came from. So they have who the alleged builder was, but they don't know who that builder really was. So it's like, oh, okay. But back to what my point was, I'm seeing people quote this, and then other people are going, did you ever think that Corona was just the Earth's way of getting rid of the unnecessary human population? And I'm just like, oh my goodness. All these people.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we have abused the Earth for so long. The Earth is fighting back with Corona. I'm just like, oh, great. So this Earth Day, apparently, it's go catch Corona, kill yourself, and let the Earth heal. And that's what it seems like the crazies are preaching, and it's annoying. Again, I believe being careful with the resources that we have been given. We have been instructed in the Bible to take care of the resources. The whole idea of, thankfully, government's like, yeah, let's population control these animals. Here's some hunting. I'm sorry, PETA. Hunting is sometimes necessary to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this sounds, I'm not making an analogy between like deer and humans, but, we allow the hunting of deer to cull the population slightly, prevent the spread of disease. We're not talking about a corona-like thing in humans, but, to stop that, as well as overpopulation, which then means that they don't, starve, which would be inhumane, which people would then go, oh, corona, grocery stores. But, so don't try to make the two equal. But, we say, okay, here's our deer population. We should probably kill some of them. Hey, hunters, go out and get some food for your family. Yeah, we practice this, so sorry to PETA on that, but yes, we do like our wonderful meats out there.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading something right now on the whole, and viruses kind of pinpoint the ones in America. Now, I'm probably going to miss a few, but across the Americas, cluster diseases brought to the America. Yeah, so across the Americas in the 16th century, there was a plague. Some estimates suggest that 90% of the indigenous population in the Western Hemisphere was killed off. Ooh, that's a lot.
Yep.
Then you have next one. Now I'm skipping some over these. I'm just trying to keep this going quick here. You have the plague of Marseille, Russian plague. No idea if that affected us. But then in Philadelphia, you had the yellow fever epidemic in 1793. 5,000 people had died. And then in the 1889 to 1890, 100 years later, you had the flu pandemic, killing 1 million people. And then in 1916 is when the American polio epidemic, 6,000 people died. 27,000 cases. Then in 18 to 20 is the well-known Spanish flu, for those people who have done their research. So 1/5 of the people infected died.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 1957, 1958 was the Asian flu. I think we all know where that came from.
Here's the thing. Spanish flu, do you know where they think that came from? Not from Spain.
Nope.
From China.
Mm-hmm. Spain was a neutral nation during the war and did not enforce strict censorship in press, which could therefore freely publish early accounts of the illness. As a result, people falsely believed the illness was specific to Spain, and the name Spanish flu stuck. So They were the ones that spoke on it, and that's how the name came. Then you have the Asian flu, right? AIDS, HIV, that's I guess a plague. H1N1 swine flu.
Yep. So all those were pandemics. It wasn't a plague, the AIDS. It's classified as a pandemic just because. Mm-hmm. Now, do you know what it means when something is classified as a pandemic? Just question real quick for you.
I think
all a pandemic means is that it's a disease that is spread over a whole country or the world. That's all pandemic means. So just
Okay.
so it's not like that's why AIDS is classified as a pandemic because it is worldwide.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
Okay.
can talk. Yeah. So, but let's talk about maybe some of those diseases a little bit more in the Corona episode, actually.
Oh yeah.
But yes, there are multiple cases where we have novel viruses that have come out and killed large swaths of population. Let's not sugarcoat it. Spanish flu itself, I think they're saying anywhere. What were they saying? Up to 100 million died from that.
Yeah, that's that. And at the time, that was a big. That was a lot of people.
Yeah, and like Corona, it was novel at the time. And novel, all that means, because I've seen this around too, people going, well, novel means it has animal proteins or this or that. No, novel means it is new. That's it. We have no immunity to it. That's why it's so deadly. That's why people get sick. You know, so, but that being said, none of those are looked back now as good things. Unless you're a crazy eco-terrorist person who says, that brought the world population down. Yay, let's celebrate Earth Day now.
I'd like to see everybody who thinks that, all right, this is going to be harsh, okay? And forgive me for anybody this might closely affect. But if you're going to sit there and you're excited that someone else died so that world population goes down, then why don't you, as the person who's getting us excited about that, why don't you just go take your own life? Maybe help it go down even more further. If that's the mindset. So that's that weird psychological thing that happens to where, hey, this is changing. I'm happy for it because it's not impacting me directly. But as soon as it impacts those people that get all cheerful about it, then their whole mindset flips.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if those people were actually really concerned about that, we wouldn't hear from them because they would have contributed towards the death to help bring the world population down if they actually cared about it and they weren't mentally messed up.
No, they have to stay around to preach the good news of them wanting the population to be lowered
And ruling the world.
Yeah, there's a whole slew on this I could get into, but I'm not going to do it for now. But yeah, so Earth Day is coming up. I don't see it personally as a okay. This is going to sound weird in the phrasing. I don't see it as myself as like a religiously fundamentalist, environmentalist.
Mm-hmm.
I see myself as I'm practical, and what is good. I'm not for banning of plastic straws because we're seeing hey, guess what? We kind of need them. Same with plastic bags nowadays. Now we're being told don't use those reusable bags because that's going to spread corona. And right now it's corona. Next year it might be corona V2.
Yeah,
don't know.
There's a chance that we could see corona mutate and come back, this winter. There's always that chance.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see that. But we're seeing that, and I'm like, in a way, we're looking at the world now, and it's, hey, environmentalists, this is what your world would kind of look like if you got your extreme ways. And I'm seeing some people freak out. Just like you see all these people who are anti-gun, and I'll talk about this more later in another episode, but who are anti-gun, all of a sudden, the gun system is overwhelmed with new people buying guns.
Oh my gosh. I was talking to someone.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But the same thing now, all these people who are like, oh, let's reuse the same rag to clean everything. Let's do this, let's do that. You can't find paper products in a store right now. They are all gone. So much for environmentally safe and using things responsibly because they're gone. Same with plasticware. It is near impossible to find, toilet paper, not dish towels, paper towels. It was even hard for me to find plastic forks in that. So when I found some, I bought everything I needed. But environmentalism goes out the door all of a sudden when it's a hardship. And here's kind of that world where we'd be looking at. It's like, maybe we need to find that balance between the two and be proper stewards of the resources we were given. Use them, but don't abuse them.
Yeah. Oh, shit. I saw, and this kind of goes towards more of the Corona thing, but it falls in the line of respecting the earth and stuff and using things at the right way. This guy, he was talking about Costco toilet paper and those big packs and stuff.
Yeah.
And people were buying so much of it. He sat there and he goes, "All right, so if you did this the right way, people, and you only use 20 sheets of crap, and if you have this many sheets on a roll, and you have this many rolls," he goes, "you're telling me you're going to crap 182 times a day for the next 2 weeks? That's just one case. And you guys are walking out with 3, 4, 5 cases." And I'm just like, wow. You don't think about it when you panic. It's amazing how many people don't realize, that they're getting more than they need to. But yeah, I mean, people. I'm just thinking to myself, I hate to be a plumber at this time because the amount of toilets that are probably going to be clogged from people.
Yeah. Well, it's not toilets, it's sewer lines, but we can get into that whole fun thing too. I got something for that too. People, but I mean, in reality, you look at it, and this whole thing of reduce, reuse, all this. Corona hit, it went out the door, and everyone's stockpiling and everything, and they're using as much as they want, and they're buying it all, and they don't care.
Yeah.
So there has to be a middle ground. There has to be a way where on Earth Day, I wouldn't use it as a day to be like, I must now attend the Church of Gaia. Use it as a day to think on maybe, hey, what am I doing? And am I using the resources I have responsibly? Am I being a good steward of what is on the earth? Where that's, do you leave all your electronics on all the time? Well, okay, if you could turn your lights off, you reduce the electrical load a little bit, which means less coal, less gas being burned. Do you really need the gas guzzler? If your finances are where you can't afford a new vehicle, keep the vehicle you have. Don't necessarily go do that. We had the cash for clunkers thing a few years back. Well, a lot of those vehicles ended up being totaled and destroyed because they couldn't be resold under the cash for clunkers thing. That wasn't good for the environment, but yet it was praised because people were able to buy cheaper, less expensive,
more fuel efficient
vehicles. But they didn't take a look at the impact, the economic impact, and the environmental impact of getting rid of all those old vehicles and just throwing them in the landfill, or whatever they did with them.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the short term versus the long term sometimes, and that is where we get in trouble. We need to get rid of the straws instead of saying, what can we do to maybe reduce the reliance on straws? We get rid of the gas guzzler instead of saying, how can we make all vehicles better? Not just saying they must hit 50 miles per gallon, but how do we actually make vehicles that people will want to use that can get good gas mileage? What are the new technologies like that plant down in Texas that can produce electricity without producing emissions?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of ban all coal, ban all gas, ban nuclear because people don't like nuclear because it produces nuclear energy. What can we do long term? And how do we get ourselves in a situation where we can prepare for that long term? We're not going to get there overnight. We can't just shut everything down and move into that. We've seen what happens when we shut down economies. That's what we're living right now. Yep. We've seen what happens when we shut down countries. But
at the same time, too, I was going to say, for those who are the extreme side and they're like, let's shut everything down. To get where they want to get, you can't shut everything down. You shut down the electricity producers. Well, now you're shutting down the electricity that goes towards the pumps that put water in our water towers in the area. It takes time, like you said. And if you shut down these companies going bankrupt, well, who's going to pay to get everything converted over? So you have all this. What you're saying is 100% true, and I'm just kind of reiterating the fact. It takes time, because if you have nobody producing anything, you're not going to get where you want to get unless you want to, not have any sort of. If you're the guy that wants to go back to sticks and stones, well, you want everything shut down. But if you want to build solar panels, well, believe it or not, solar panels are not the cleanest things to build. They take a lot to make.
Yeah.
And then, if somebody's like, hey, let's do windmills. Well, you got to remember, what about all the birds that smack into the windmills? It might be spinning at, 10 miles an hour at the center, but once you get to the tip, that thing's spinning 100 miles an hour. That bird can't understand that. Now you're killing birds. Now you have various insects and maybe other populations of birds that shouldn't be growing because you're killing, a portion of the birds that help to keep that under control. So then, I mean, there's all sorts of, like you said, pros and cons, but it's a definite thing where we cannot shut down these big money guys.
Mhm.
Because at that point, you get nowhere. It's funny as they say, the idea was to have the people run the country. Well, unfortunately, money runs this country. Debt, I should say, runs the country. But
So, I mean, I think a good way to sum it up is this: in all things, moderation.